The CEO and co-founder of Anchorage Digital, which you may not have heard of, but you should know about. Anchorage is the first federally regulated crypto bank in the country. Nathan, welcome. It's great to have you as part of our conversation on Bloomberg TV and radio. Are you getting what you need from Washington? And what do you expect in the new year?
Listen, first of all, it's wonderful to be here. Thanks so much for having me on the show. We are absolutely getting what we need from Washington. Genius Act passed earlier this year, which created the federal regulatory framework for stablecoins. Since then, we have announced 4 partnerships with stablecoin issuers, including the stablecoin giant Tether that is going to be working with us to issue their U.S. version of their stablecoin. So the Genius Act has just been incredible. Really excited for market structure, which is coming next, which will lay the groundwork for how to think about trading, securities, and the whole landscape across the digital asset ecosystem.
Well, this is really interesting. To what extent has this changed the crypto landscape as we see stablecoin usage increase dramatically following the legislation that's passed? And some have suggested that it has turned investors away from Bitcoin, from Ethereum, from other tokens. Do you see that happening?
No, I see quite the opposite. I see that among institutional investors that are looking at the digital asset ecosystem, their conviction in Bitcoin as a store of value is only growing. We're seeing an incredible amount of inflows into our custody system from institutional investors looking to invest in digital assets. In fact, now all of the large ETFs in the country are now utilizing Anchorage Digital as a custodian, listed on all of their S1s. But even further than that, what we're seeing is as stablecoins grow, stablecoins are not going to be competitive with the blockchains. In fact, they are going to be using the blockchains. And so I think one of the biggest benefactors of the stablecoin trend is going to be the chains themselves, Ethereum, Solana, and the other chains where these stablecoins settle and live are going to see a lot more growth there. So I think it's an accelerant both for the stablecoin ecosystem and for the entire ecosystem at large.
Well, that's really interesting, and I appreciate you describing that at a time, of course, where we've seen some real volatility in crypto, and specifically, my gosh, what we've seen in Bitcoin and Ethereum specifically over the past couple of weeks has prompted a lot of concern. And we've had people on this program, Nathan, suggest that we could be going into another crypto winter. What would you say to them?
The way that I think about it is that these are assets that are best measured in decades in terms of their investment thesis. Thinking about your entry price for assets can definitely be something to think about. But as Bitcoin grows as a store of value on a global basis, as we have smart contract languages like Ethereum and Solana that have a kind of a long run track record here. I think what we see among our institutional investors is that long-term time horizon, 10, 20, 30 years being the thing that matters, and a little bit less focus on, say, the cyclical sine wave that is the crypto bear and bull cycles.
Talk to me about security, secure usage, ensuring the fact that these assets are not used for criminal enterprise, as Senator Elizabeth Warren frequently warns. We hear this conversation a lot in hearings in Washington, D.C. What do you have to think?
Sure. So I think there's a couple ways to think about that. The first one is software security considerations. Can you hold the assets and keep them secure and safe? My company, Anchorage Digital, operates a national bank where we hold assets for institutional investors. And the primary thing we provide to them is security, safekeeping of their assets. And so we've developed a ton of security procedures, and that's really well appreciated and is really central to any investment thesis in the crypto assets, is thinking about the security of your assets. The second part of your question is around, what do we think about how stable coins and other assets are used on a global scale?
Yeah.
As I mentioned, we operate as a national bank, so we completely comply with all federal regulations around BSA, AML, sanctions, and all of that. And so I think in many ways we have proven that it is possible to operate like that and to operate crypto asset businesses fully and completely within the regulatory perimeter of the laws and regulations of the United States.
Well, in our remaining moment, Nathan, what does your charter mean for the rest of the industry? Will we see more banks like yours and create a new class of banking?
I hope so. So we are the first and as yet only operational federally chartered digital asset bank. But I expect that we are the first of many. The way I like to say it is that there used to be such a thing as internet companies. Now that is just called a company. And we are a crypto bank, and I think there one day will come in the U.S. where every bank will be a crypto bank, and so we are one of one at this point. But I look forward to be one of 4,000, and we look to help enable all the rest of the banks to come into this space. And so, looking forward to even more adoption there within the banking industry.